Pop here, welcome back. Okay, here's the story I promised you guys, the story of how I got into this. I got to do it in multiple parts, can't do it all at once, alright? You're just going to have to bear with me if you want to hear it all. Okay, so for me, the story starts with a pumpkin and a cow. It's funny how life has sometimes a certain symmetry to it. For me, it started with animals and ends with animals. So, anyway, it's all happened day after Halloween 2015, okay? We have friends that have a ranch farm type set up where they take in animals that need homes, but not cats and dogs like cows and pigs and goats and whatever. Well, after Halloween, a lot of the pumpkin patches that didn't sell out their pumpkins donate their old pumpkins to this farm that's nearby so that they can be used as feed for the animals. Well, being animal oriented as I am, I volunteered to take some of the pumpkins to the cows. So I spend my day picking up pumpkins at pumpkin patches and delivering them to cows around these cow pastures on this farm. So that's how my day went, and everything seemed to be going okay. But partway through the day, I started getting some tingling in my hands and some numbness in my feet and some soreness. Now, I am diabetic. I thought it was a little bit of neuropathy, but I wasn't real concerned. I thought I'd get over it. I was just overdoing, the old guy doing too much, which is possible. But it started to get worse. By the time I got home that day, I was very sore, could barely stand up. And long story short, over the course of the next week, it kept getting worse and worse. I made visits to the clinic, the doc in the box, and they said, "Oh, it's probably a neuropathy. You overdid it. You strained something. Take it easy." And it continued to get worse. And after a couple of days, I started to lose feeling and more numbness and more issues. And I went to the emergency room, and they said the same thing. "Oh, you're a diabetic. You probably got neuropathy. You've got issues. You're old. You shouldn't be doing that crap." I'm like, "Yeah, I understand that, but it doesn't seem to be getting any better. It gets to be worse." Well, after about a week of this, I literally could no longer stand up. Okay, I had no feeling in the lower part of my body at all. I had soreness in the areas I could feel, and I had tingling and pain everywhere. So I was a mess. So we went up. My wife and family had to get me up off the floor because I couldn't stand. Call an ambulance and take my butt to the hospital. So they get me to the hospital. Start running every test that they could possibly run on an old man. Everything they could do to find. They did MRIs. They did EKGs. They did uh, studies. They did spinal taps. They did everything trying to figure out what was going on with me. Now, I had already had some spinal damage prior to this. They used words about my back like persistent and repetitive damage, which means when I hurt myself, I'm too stupid to stop, basically. So, anyway, I'm in the hospital. They're trying to figure out what's going on with me. They'd look at me laying in bed and say, "Parts of your body are shutting down. We don't know why. We don't know if we're going to be able to fix it. You may never get out of bed. You may never walk." I was lucky in that the neurosurgeon at the hospital was a spinal specialist. He was very good. He had worked with me before. He came by to check on me. He looked at all these tests that they had run, X-rays, EKGs, everything. He said, "Okay," he turned to me. He said, "I know what the problem is." He said, "You blew out some discs in your neck." He said, "When you did, they pressed on your spinal cord and caused it to swell and cause damage to it." He said, "We can fix the spine, but the spinal cord is going to have to heal on its own, and we're not sure how much you're going to get back. It's not going to be a quick recovery. It's going to take a while, but you're going to get back hopefully a fair amount." Well, to me, this was like, the resurgence of hope, because I had not been thinking I'd never get out of bed, and all of a sudden I'm thinking I'm going to get back something. So he did. He went in. He performed the surgery, fixed my neck. My neck is all titanium now from C3 through C7, for those of you that notice such things, and gave me a chance to heal. I spent time in the hospital. I spent time in rehab. One of the most frustrating things in my life, try putting little pegs in little holes when you can't feel your fingers. It drives you freaking nuts. Anyway, learned to get around enough with a wheelchair and a walker so they would let me go home from rehab. I spent time in a wheelchair. I spent time in a walker. I spent time with a cane learning how to walk and how to move again. I consider myself truly blessed because I got back about 80% of what I lost. I'm still disabled. I still have numbness issues below my knees. I still have problems with feeling my hands and tingling that runs up and down my arms and things like that. But I'm very grateful for what I got back. So that's physically how my disability and my diabetes, those things brought me to that point. Well, when I get through all of this, like a lot of you, I'm not independently wealthy. I still needed a job. I could not commit to a full-time job because, quite frankly, I just wasn't up to it. Some days I'm still not up to it. Some days I still get worn out very easily. Anyway, when I was young, I used to drive a truck. So I don't mind spending hours behind the wheel. So I started doing gig driving, ride share for like Lyft and Uber and stuff, and earning money that way so I could be working. And again, sometimes fate looks out for me. And they say God looks after dimwits and crazy people, and I'm not sure which one I fall into, but sometimes I think he likes me. And I came across a guy who, in my area, I was driving as a gig driver, who was a breeder, and he had puppies that he needed to get from Virginia to Pennsylvania. And we were talking animals because I love animals and he loved animals. And he mentioned this, and we worked out a deal. I took the puppies to Pennsylvania for him. Well, he liked me. He liked the way I took care of his animals. He liked the way that they arrived happy and healthy and not stressed out. And he actually recommended me to somebody else. That person recommended me to somebody else who was actually still a client of mine and still one of a good friend now, who's a breeder in Pennsylvania. And mostly by word of mouth over the next few years, one person recommended me to another person, and some of those early breeders who are now my very good friends, still continuing to feed me work and to recommend me to people. I started doing just animals and stopped driving people. And trust me, the animals were a lot better behaved and much easier to talk to. So we started driving the animals around. Well, in the course of this, after spending time on the road, I started getting calls from people who say, hey, we need help with this. Can you possibly help with this? We have a rescue dog here who can't seem to can't get it home. We have a home for it, but can't get it there. Can you help? And, I love animals, so I was glad to pitch in and help whenever I could. I could call and say, we have 8 beagles who were rescued from, a puppy mill that need to get somewhere. Can you take them somewhere where they can get taken care of? And I did. And so the breeders and the work that they give me and pay for me helped me do other work where there wasn't any income going, but allowed me to stay on the road and help them. And that's kind of how I got to where I am today. See, and today that's still the thing. I work for some jobs where I get paid, and some jobs where there's no money involved, but I use what I made to make expenses. So I ain't getting rich, but I consider myself very successful, I got a lot of furry friends around the country, a lot of really nice people who work in rescues and breeders and individuals who I've helped transport their animals that like me. And, hopefully when the day comes when I finally hit that rainbow bridge, I'm going to be met by a whole lot of furry friends. That's what I'm hoping for. So anyway, that's my story, and that's how I got into this. I wouldn't recommend taking that approach, but it's funny how sometimes things work your way around to where you really belong. And I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing, and this is the way it worked out for me. So thanks for listening to my story. If you liked it, you want to hear more of my adventures and follow on my journey, make sure you like and follow. And we'll see you all next time. Y'all take care and God bless.